Hello and welcome. So today I'm going to be talking about Nezha. And if you've seen a few videos, you'll notice that this is a tad bit different than where I normally am. So I'm in the simulacrum, and that's to show off the differences and changes with Nezha's big nuke build with the divine spears and the pyrotechnics and whatnot using his augment. I'm going to showcase how just making a really simple mod change can change it to where, you get the nuke to go off and you, well, don't get the nuke to go off. A little issue that I was running into a little while ago when all this stuff came out. So I'm going to showcase if you're having the issue of, you just can't get it to connect, I'm going to show you how to better make that work. Also, with Nezha being pretty easily accessible for newer players because you just get them really early in like the Tenno labs or whatnot because all you need is to just be in a dojo. I am going to go over like his abilities and whatnot really quick and then just show off like a newer player setup here. So let's just get into that with his just abilities here really quick, and then I'll go over the nuke setup and my other build that I have for him. So for his passive here, he just slides further and faster. He's a slick little boy, so he just gets to glide all over the tile sets. Pretty useful passive just for getting around and whatnot. Same thing for kind of his Firewalker. He gets to, his speed increases, and then he leaves like a little trail of fire behind him. This is fairly useful because you get to just like crowd control enemies because they do the whole animation of, oh no, I'm on fire, and they just, panic. So, yeah, pretty decent. Blazing Chakram is his second ability. So what this does is the Chakram is the name of the thing that's on his back, and then you can use his tune, then you can throw it at enemies, and then when you do, and you kill them, they have a chance of dropping a health orb. This is pretty good for if you've got like Equilibrium on, it's a way to get energy, and then even if you're a newer player, this is still fairly useful because, well, you don't have that many avenues for healing, so just getting some health orbs here and there can be pretty useful for just getting some free healing off. His third ability is his Warding Halo, so this is where his survivability is going to come from. The damage absorption and then the absorption multiplier, those are based off of armor for the damage absorption, and then the multiplier for the absorption is based off of power strength, I believe is that split. So this is where his survivability essentially comes from. When you cast it, you're invincible for a little bit of time, and then the damage that you take, it's very similar to like Rhino's Iron Skin. When you get shot, the damage gets built up, and then that gets turned into armor. His doesn't get turned into overguard though, like Rhino's. It just turns into armor that is in like turns into some damage reduction. I believe it's a 90% DR, and then when it comes off of you and it kind of blows up, you're also invulnerable for that period of window as well. So you've got periods of invulnerability, then you can recast it, then you're invulnerable again. He can be pretty tanky, so long as you can time everything right. And then his fourth ability is his Divine Spears. He just impales everything around him, just a big, just CC, a big get off me. You just get to, cosplay as Vad the Impaler a little bit. So decent overall. If there's a bunch of enemies around you and you don't know what to do, just hit the four, and then, well, they're still around you, but they're not doing anything really. So you get to do whatever you want with them. You can even just throw your chakram at them and then get some free health orbs out of it. And then for the newer player setup, Dreamer's Bond is going to be really good. You get this very early in the game. Flow is going to be really good so that you can just go ahead and use a bunch of abilities. Same thing for Streamline here. Your abilities are going to cost less, so you get to use more. Intensify for power strength, that's going to make all your abilities just do a little bit more damage, and it's going to increase your absorption multiplier down there for Warding Halo, so that's going to be nice. Side note, because I am running Tau Forge Strength Shards, your strength is going to be 130. Mine's higher because of just different things that you get it later in the game. Steel Fiber and then Vitality for a little bit of health and armor just to help with survivability. And then Stretch to round out the mods here. Just something for a little bit of extra range to help with like Divine Spears and whatnot. So little newer player build here to get you going, get you enjoying Nezha. Pretty fun frame. I've really liked him, so hopefully you will too. Alright, so now into the big meat and potatoes of why I'm making the video. So, the whole Divine Retribution with the Divine Spears and then into Pyrotechnics. The build I think is pretty self-explanatory if you've seen like the whole like Nezha nuke setup videos before. I don't think I'm doing anything too crazy different. The only thing that I may be doing is I've got Arcane Blessing and then Adaptation, so I focus a little bit more on survivability, so I have more health with Blessing, and then you can get more health, funny enough, like I mentioned earlier, with like Blazing Chakram when I was going over the newer player stuff. So this will drop a decent amount of health orbs, so you can build this thing up. Not quickly, but it's faster than you think it'd be. So, and then this damage reduction from Adaptation also stacks on top of Warding Halo, which is nice. I'm running Archon Stretch because of my companion. I've got it set up so that they do like electric ability damage, which does proc towards Archon Stretch. Archon Vitality for this, because of the Pyrotechnics, gives you more heat stack, so that's always nice. That applies twice. Overextended, and then the Archon Stretch, like I mentioned earlier, for a bunch of range with Cutting Drift. I'm not doing the max range like with Augur Reach, because I wanted the extra damage reduction from Adaptation. Putting Expertise, of course, because you want the duration on your 4 to be as low as possible, so that you can cast it more, use your Pyrotechnics more, and then you just get to nuke more. And then Transient Fortitude, and then Umbral Intensified to round up the power strength. Star of the show is the Augment. This thing is still really bloody strong. Like they gave this thing a decent little nerf, and it's still just clearing tiles. Like it's really good. Molt Augmented to round off the Arcanes, and then Corrosive Projection. This can really be whatever you want it to be. I just think the enemies having less armor just adds up to more overall damage. So, to go ahead and then just demonstrate the whole nuke setup here just really quick. Oh, they're moving. Hold on. Well, it's that. You just do that. You cast your 4, and then you cast your 1. And then, well, they are no more. So, let me pause them really quick. So, because of how this is set up and how I showed you earlier, there is about 1.5 second. Wow, that was fast. There is 1.5 seconds from you casting your 4 from when you need to cast your 1. And due to just, like not being like the host of of your squad, or there just being ping issues, or like you sneeze, whatever may happen, you may not always just get that off in time. Like I barely got that off in time. Because, things happen, you may not always be paying attention, and that could be the difference between you getting your big nuke at the end like that. Like, I didn't time that right at all. I'm not getting my damage because I'm not timing. Well, that time I did. But, yeah. So, like, 1.5 seconds is not that much time. And anything can really happen, when you're playing the game, so you're going to miss that, and if you miss that, you miss out on all of your nuke damage. So what you can do to make sure that you can, well, get that combo off is really just that simple. You just use a lower ranked fleeting expertise, and then this gives you, see down here, this gives you more duration. So instead of the 1.5, it's 2.7. So, and I get like this thing adding like a whole second. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when we go ahead and I show this, la-di-da-di-la-da-di-da. Look at that. I had enough time to go ahead and just do a full little loopy circle, and then I still had enough time to just cast my 1, which is the Pyrotechnics, and then do the nuke. So you have a lot more leeway and a lot more wiggle room to get this nuke off. And as what you're seeing is, the damage is basically the same. Like, there is no difference, you're just not doing it as fast. So if the overall consequence of this is, you're doing something slightly slower, that's fine, because guess what? You get to do it at all. Doing it slower is better than just trying to do it fast and just missing it. And then also you're seeing why I like using the Panzerwelpe here to spread a bunch of Pyro, because it makes the damage go kind of crazy. So, yeah, that is how that you can make that go ahead and land. And then you also really want a casting speed shard with this. You don't need two, because, well, I'm not using two. But if you didn't want to use two and you wanted to use the shard for something else, like what I have, I've got a max energy on spawn, or maybe you wanted another Tau Forge Equilibrium shard, or maybe you want another Power Stream shard. You can go ahead and you can slot that in the build, because you don't need to have two casting speed shards like I've seen. I've seen some videos have like 3 of these things, and I don't think that's overly necessary. If you're still not able to hit the whole Divine Spears nuke or whatnot with the 2.7 seconds that this is, just off of this rank of fleeting expertise, guess what? Go ahead and just try this. Get you a different fleeting expertise, go ahead and grind that out, just use the dragon keys, get you one, and just go ahead and change how much duration you take out. You just try and get how much duration you need to make it so that you can go ahead and nuke when you're, by yourself, or if you're with a party or whatnot, because your connection and your ping is going to change a decent little bit, and if it's off, you don't get to nuke. So, yeah, that is how that you can go ahead and change this to still get the nuke off, and you can still go ahead and use it. Now, if you want to use Nezha, but like let's say you don't care for the whole like nuke setup, you think it's overrated. I was using, while I was putting some form into him and leveling him, I decided to change the build a little bit because, well, constantly nuking things is fun. It does get a little boring after a little while. So I wound up having a little bit of fun with ophanim eyes, and then having a little bit of like range and whatnot on this so that this works on a little bit more enemies. So this is pretty cool because this will slow enemies and then you're fast. So you just get to do laps around a bunch of enemies, which is kind of fun. And especially because I didn't subsume over the one, so you get to keep Firewalkers, so now you're even faster. And then with the Molt Augments that I still have up here, the ophanim eyes will get up to, I think it's like 36 or 37%, which means that within 3 seconds, they're fully armor stripped, which is really nice. That's a big, like, strength threshold that you want, that is very nice to meet with ophanim eyes to go ahead and get that. Now, for me to get that, I am at negative efficiency. I have not had any issues being at negative efficiency, but if if that bothers you, or if, you just can't sustain that energy, what you can do is you can slot Transient Fortitude into this slot. Cutting Drift can go change into Power Drift, and then one of these, or two of these, excuse me, two of these you can change to be the Tau Forge Crimson Strength Shard, and if you don't have one of those, then you can just go ahead and have it be like the Power Drift that's up here. Like all 3 of these can just be the Power Strength Shards, and then you can get your missing strength back. If you only have like 2 Tau Forge like what I do, then the rest of the 3 of these can just be like regular Strength Shards. If you've got like 2 Tau Forged here, but you just have like 3 just regular Strength Shards, then you can get 30 from here, and then just throw the other Power Drift into this, and then you'll have the missing Power Strength to get you to that 3-second armor strip off of ophanim eyes. Oh, but this was pretty fun to just walk around and just kind of speed blitz all over like maps and tile sets and whatnot, and just like slow and freeze enemies and armor strip them and just like shoot them and whatnot. It was pretty fun. This was more fun than I thought it'd be. This is using 3 Umbra Formas. You don't really have to have the Umbral Fiber. It does help, of course, with like with the Warning Halo and the survivability and whatnot, but You don't have to have that. This can just be like whatever like you want it to be, essentially. So just go ahead and slot whatever you want here. This could be something like, let's say you think I have 2 less energy. Guess what? Prime flow. Go ahead, go for it. It's fine. And then you don't have to use another umbral forma to go ahead and make this work. If you're just using 2 of these, you can just use 1 umbral forma and you'll be fine. But because of how I've had them built in the past, I can just go ahead and I can do this. So let me show this off. I'm actually not going to pause the AI this time just to kind of show this off. So then use the Halo, the Firewalker, I'll use the Ophanimize, and now they're just nice and slowed. They're slowed and they're armor stripped, and I'm just hammering away. Grab rid of that. That is what it is. They are really slowed. There we go. Pop. And there we go. So, you know, if you don't want to use the nuke setup, I imagine you just want to use a gun. So that's what this will allow you to do. Just run around, you know, be a slippery little guy and just use ophanim, slow people down, armor strip them, and just blast them in the face. You know, pretty fun. It's a fairly different play style than just going around and just, you know, nuking everything. So little something to showcase there. Quick little side note though about like removing the umbral fiber. If you do remove this, your power strength will go down enough to where I don't think you'll be able to get like the 3-second armor strip, but it's not that big of a deal. It's still a pretty fun build either way. But yeah, that is the build. I hope you learned something with the whole Nezha nuke and the pyrotechnics and whatnot. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Hope you give one of the builds a shot. And thanks for watching. Later.